Welcome to this Kickstart Study Abroad recording. Thank you for joining me. Uh, we're here to learn a little bit about what study abroad is and some of your options as you start thinking about studying abroad at DU. Okay, so a little bit about today's outline. First of all, we're just going to do a quick overview of what is study abroad. Then we're going to go through a few points of consideration, things like program types, academics, finances, personal identities, and then some next steps. How do you go about finding a program? What are the deadlines you need to know? That kind of thing is what we will go through today. So first of all, what is study abroad? Now, study abroad is primarily an academic experience. While there is professional, personal components as well as cultural components, it is primarily an academic experience in which students live abroad for a term to take coursework, or you can conduct research or complete internships that apply to your career at DU. So let's go into exploring your options. There's quite a few options to think about, and I'll try make them as simple as possible because this can be a little bit confusing, but just bear with me as we kind of take you through what each of these mean and how they impact you as a student. So this is just a really quick overview of our different programs. So there's DU partner programs. These are the direct enroll, the provider, and the exchange. All of those are DU partner programs. So those are universities that we have a formal partnership with. And then there is unaffiliated programs. So those are a little bit different and require kind of different application. There's some different considerations to think about in terms of finances and what courses you'll need to take. Uh, so we'll touch on that a little bit later, but for now, this is a great graphic just to see what they are and how they differ amongst each other. So let's break it down a little bit. So first of all, we have DU partner programs. And like I said, there's three types of those. There's the direct enroll, there's the exchange, and there's provider programs. And what's great with DU partner programs is that we have about 100 program options all over the world that we have a formal arrangement with. And most students will choose this option, about 96% of students. And the great things about this is that you pay regular DU fees. You get your tuition statement like normal. You can use your entire DU financial package, including state and federal aid, along with any DU scholarships. There's also this great thing called the Cherington Global Scholar Benefit. And we'll touch on this a little bit later, but just a broad overview is that it's once you meet the eligibility requirements, you can have your flights and some of your visa costs covered by the university. So like I said, you earn DU resident credit on these programs. And there's one required course that goes along with this, and that is INTZ 2501. And you're required to take this before you go abroad. And we'll touch on what that course is and what it includes a little bit later. Okay, so now let's go into the two different types of programs. So direct enroll programs is where you work directly with the host institution and you take classes with local students. So for me, this is the program type that I went on. I went to the University of Glasgow. So I did all of my application with that institution. And then I took classes alongside local students in Glasgow. So typically you'll have more course offerings to choose from with these programs because you're enrolling with other students. Typically, we say that this is a lower level of support. However, there's always going to be support for you at your institution and within our office here at the Office of International Education. So some examples of that, there's German language and internship at Heidelberg University. You can take business and economics at Maastricht in the Netherlands, or you can do math and stats at the University of Auckland in New Zealand. And this other program type here is an exchange program. And it really doesn't differ for you as a student. Most of them are for an academic year. However, there are some that are just a quarter. Sometimes this can be a little bit more cost effective to do an entire year and allows you to have a longer immersion in the host country. So we have a few of these programs over around the world. We have some in Australia, England, France, Germany, Japan, Scotland, and Sweden. But at face value, it really doesn't differ too much from a direct enroll program. Like I said, most of them for a full academic year, some for a quarter. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, and then the third type of DU partner program is a provider program. And we consider this the highest level of support when it comes to our programs. So these are programs that have a dedicated on-site staff, and they really provide some great stuff. They have cultural activities and excursions, but also, on-site dedicated staff to help you in your journey with study abroad. And when we get into searching for courses, typically the provider programs are the ones that have an acronym at the start of their program name. So there's CET, there's ISA, there's MSID, and then there's IFE. There's a few others as well, I think. So that's something to keep in mind. These are just some examples, but there's a lot more. So ISA has a bunch of different programs around the world. So just keep that in mind as you're looking for courses. And then this is what we call the Global Masters Scholars model. And this is a little bit different and it's very much department dependent. So making sure that if this is something you're interested in, that you consult with your department, because not every department at DU offers this for students. But what it consists of the first 3 years of your undergraduate study taking place at DU. And then you do your fourth year, your fourth DU year, you do that abroad at a partner institution. So that 3 years at DU and then that 1 year of study abroad constitutes a bachelor's degree from the University of Denver. And then you'll take your fifth and final year of study at the partner institution. And then upon completion, you will be awarded a master's degree by the partner institution. So some of the locations that offer this is Lund University in Sweden, the University of Glasgow in Scotland, and then the University of Western Australia in Australia. But like I said, definitely if this is something you're interested in, this is a great time to start thinking about it. And please consult with your department if you are interested in it to see if it is offered for you. Okay, so that's DU partner programs. Now let's move into an unaffiliated study abroad program. And this is a much more independent process. Uh, these are programs that don't have a formal affiliation with DU. And it really can help for students looking for specific academic needs. Perhaps you have some financial concerns about going abroad. Perhaps there's some lower GPA requirements for these programs. But primarily, you need to make an academic argument as to why an unaffiliated program is required for you because the programs that we offer don't offer what you need. So this is like not a very popular option. About 4% of students do that. And that's primarily because we have so many great programs that are DU partner programs. And there's some considerations for this as well, especially financially. So you can't use your DU institutional aid. Your federal aid can be used. You'll also earn only transfer credit. Then you won't be eligible for Cherington Global Scholars. So that's your flights and your visa costs. And then there's also two required classes that go along with this, and that's INTZ 2501 and then INTZ 2502. And 2502 is you will take that abroad. It's an asynchronous class that you'll have to do alongside your program when you're doing an unaffiliated study abroad. So something to think about. This can be popular for music majors just because a lot of our programs don't offer a lot of music programs. So something to consider if you're struggling to find courses that are relevant within our DU partner programs. This could be a good option for you, but it does require that you make an argument that is primarily academic in order for you to pursue it. Okay, now moving on to considerations, and there's quite a few different things to think about. Um, it's in a sense similar to when you applied for college, but don't think about it as daunting as that. The process is a lot simpler. But there's a lot of things that you'll take that are similar from when you applied to college, things that you're thinking about, things that you've done before. Maybe you felt overwhelmed at first by all the options when you were applying to college, but you were able to narrow down your choices by looking at schools in a particular state or with a particular academic specialty. And then after the academic application process, you had to complete a series of steps. You had to secure housing. You had to register for classes. You had to decide on insurance. And study abroad is very similar. So if you have those skills from applying to college, so you can use a lot of that in determining where you want to study abroad. And one of the biggest things that goes into this is what are your goals for studying abroad? And there's kind of three buckets that we place this into. So there's academic, and these are some questions that you might ask yourself. So what do you want to study? Do you want to do a language study? Do you want to do field research? Do you want to learn about a specific region of the world? These are all different things to think about. But then there's also professional. So do you want to do experiential or service learning? Would you like to do a program that has an included internship? Do you want to build a network? These are all possibilities within DU partner programs. We have programs that have internships. We do also experiential learning or service learning. One of them that I can think of is MSID in Thailand. That's a great service learning program to think about. That could be a great option for you. And then also personal. What are your life goals? Do you want to explore identity and heritage? Do you want to increase your self-confidence and advocacy? For me, I really wanted to focus on exploring my identity and heritage. My family is originally from Scotland, so I've studied abroad at the University of Glasgow in Scotland to learn more about that culture and how that kind of intertwined with my own personal identity. So those are some of the goals, and then academics. So like I said, academics are the primary reason for studying abroad. So making sure that you're thinking about them is really important. So really think about what sort of classes you might be interested in taking abroad. Do you want to fulfill major or minor credits? Do you want to take Common Core courses, get some of those out of the way? Or maybe you want to take some elective courses that dive into the cultural aspects of where you study abroad. But the main thing to realize is that you do not need to have all the answers now. Many of you might not have declared a major or minor yet, which is completely fine. Since study abroad is an academic experience, think about the kind of classes and topics you want to learn about while in another country. And I think this can really help you narrow down what region you are interested in, what type of language of instruction you'd like to learn in, things like that. That'll help you in narrowing down and deciding on where you want to study abroad. And when you're thinking about this, it's definitely important to communicate with your faculty or academic advisor. How does your study abroad and coursework that the program offers fit into your academic plan? They are a wealth of knowledge in helping you decide what classes you want to take. So definitely rely on them to provide some guidance on what you should be thinking about and what you might be interested in doing. And then another thing, time to study abroad. So we offer autumn quarter or full quarter. We also have winter and or spring quarters. And then there's the opportunity for academic year or summer quarters. So it's really important to think, when does the program start? July, August, or September typically. Southern and Northern Hemisphere academic calendars do vary. So Southern Hemisphere programs often start in July. So if you're thinking about maybe having an internship over the summer, it's important to think about how where you're studying abroad might impact that. Uh, and then also, how long do you want to study abroad? So as mentioned, there's the year-long option. There's the 2-year option if you do your global master's scholars. We have summer options. Maybe you want a quarter. Sometimes if you do the winter, that bridges into winter and spring. So that's something to think about as well. So timing and where and for how long is really important in this decision process. Another great question is, how much will it cost? So obviously we are all in different financial situations. So it's really important to consider how this may impact your program decision. And part of this is considering program costs, but also costs of living in a different country and what funding opportunities are out there. Some of our scholarships have applications opening in the fall. So really start thinking about that. But first, let's talk about program cost. So really make sure you understand the difference in cost between a DU partner program and an unaffiliated program, but also the cost of living abroad. How expensive is the country or city you want to study in? You can use a lot of great cost of living calculators online to start understanding how those differences may impact your experience abroad, but also things like, do you need to pay for local transportation or your meals or a gym membership or internet? Those are some really important questions to start asking when you're looking for programs. And then scholarships. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities out there, but it really does require some digging on your part to find scholarships you're eligible for outside of DU. And then we also, like I said, we have that CGS benefit, which we'll talk about a little bit more soon. Okay, so tuition costs abroad. These are some typical costs that will be reflected on your bill. So firstly, your base DU tuition, and then your DU housing fee. And that's only going to show up if housing is provided through your abroad institution, and it's based on a second year residence hall rate if it does appear on your tuition. Then there's also the DU tech fee, and then some other potential costs to expect. If your program has a meal plan, you will see meals on your tuition statement, and that'll be based on a 125 block meal plan that you would be charged at DU. Okay, Cherington Global Scholars. Now, this is the primary benefit that is offered through the Office of International Education. And it really is a benefit to help eligible DU partner program students receive benefits to offset additional costs associated with studying abroad with DU partner programs. So that will help eligible students offset those additional costs like flights, immigration, and local travel. And some of the eligibility requirements here is a 3.0 cumulative GPA, 90 plus credits earned, good academic and conduct standing, 2+ full-time quarters at DU. You have to be 18 plus, DU partner program participant, and you have to book your flights with our travel partner, Student Universe. So how it works, the biggest thing here, you do not have to apply. If you are eligible at the time of DU acceptance to your program, you are automatically awarded with those benefits. You do not, I repeat, you do not need to apply. So if at the time of DU acceptance, you are not eligible, but if before departure you do become eligible, you can reach out to our office to have your status rechecked so that you can still make use of that benefit. And then you'll get some more info about this and the timeline of it once you are further along in the study abroad process. Okay, student life abroad. Personal identity is a huge part of this, thinking about gender, sexuality, race, ethnicity, neurodiversity. It's really important to consider how the different identities you hold factor into your abroad experience, what questions you should begin asking yourself, and resources you should utilize. So when you visit a new country, you may be faced with new expectations, stereotypes, and norms related to your identity. In the US, you might be identified by a certain identity first, but abroad, you may be viewed first as an American. So additionally, when selecting a program, we really can encourage you to consider the culturally based ideas and definitions of sexual identity and gender in the countries you plan to visit. Then there's program support. Some programs offer more support, and they're structured to cater towards American study abroad students, whereas others provide more of an independent environment. It's always important to consider what types of program support structures you thrive in and what extent you're willing to go outside of your comfort zone and handle some of that ambiguity. For example, an affiliated program is great for those who are comfortable and able to advocate for themselves, find out information independently, etc. Whereas a provider program is a great choice if you desire a learning environment with other Americans. It's also really important to consider academic differences. Many schools abroad have limited lecture time, but accept students to keep up with readings, grades based on 1 or 2 papers for the whole term. So regardless, remember it is your experience and you are responsible for communicating with support systems, applying to and handling your program information and tasks. So a lot of cultural differences. Cultural shock is very real and something that pretty much everybody faces. This is something that you will learn about throughout INTZ 2501, but also understanding your own cultural biases. And that's the required class that you have to take before you go abroad. There's also a lot of lifestyle changes in terms of different things like living in a city versus living in a rural area, languages, climate, temperature, freedom to travel around versus restrictions or limitations. And there's a lot more of that that you can learn more about as you're discovering which program you might want to pursue. Okay, next steps. We're getting towards the end now. So this is our study abroad website. I'll take you through this in a moment here, but this is what it looks like. I'll show you more in a second. This is where a lot of the base information for studying abroad can be found. Then there's Passport. This is kind of your one-stop shop for searching for DU partner programs. Uh, so that's really important to think about. And then a little bit of a timeline before I show you some of these resources and where to find them. Uh, the timeline. So summer 2024, that's coming up now, is when you want to start using DU Passport to search for programs, narrow down your program choices. And then in the fall, you're going to start deciding on a program and you're going to meet with your academic and abroad advisors to really determine what's a good fit for you. What do you need while you're abroad in terms of coursework, things like that. Then we have two deadlines. So there's December 1st and then there's February 1st. I'll touch on what those mean and how those differ in a second here. And then spring 2025, you will do your pre-departure preparations. You will apply to your study abroad program. And then 25, 26, you will go abroad and the process will be over. Okay, so deadlines. December 1st, this is what we consider the early deadline for all 25 and 26 study abroad. What this means is that if a program is listed as a medium or limited chance of acceptance, we really encourage you to do the early deadline. This just ensures that you have the highest chance of getting into your program. But honestly, for everybody, I think it's a really good idea to look at applying by that early deadline. And then that February 1st deadline, that's the standard deadline for all study abroad students. But again, really focus on trying to get your application in by that December 1st deadline. Some of our programs do have limited spots, so it's important to consider the timing of your application when thinking about that. And then feel free to come by our drop-in hours. This is really great for general questions or information, helping you narrow down your programs, walking you through some of the application materials and things like that. We do typically do that in person, Monday to Thursday, 10 to 11 and 2 to 4. We're in the Community Commons Suite 3100, but we also do virtual on Fridays, 10 to 11 and 2 to 4. And that's the Zoom meeting ID there. We won't be holding drop-ins over the summer, but once we start back up again in the fall, you can expect to see us around campus. Okay, I will skip the questions portion of this, and I will take you through just a little bit of where you can begin to find your programs. Okay. So let's start with our website. So DUOIE is probably the fastest way to find it. It's typically the first link when you search that up. This is our website. So a few great things on here. First of all, I'd probably look at getting started, steps to study abroad, that kind of thing. You can also find our events on this page. So first steps is a required presentation that you'll have to attend next year after the summer. So make sure you keep an eye out for some of those dates. You'll find those here. And it's a great place to start looking. Learning a little bit about earning credit is also a great way to start. Sometimes you might have to do a course approval process. We'll talk a little bit more about this in your first step session, but just so you know kind of where to find it, you can start exploring on this website. We also have some great resources here, that kind of thing, financial planning. We have some great scholarship opportunities that are all listed on our website that you can look into as a way to start budgeting for study abroad. And then kind of the big thing for your summer, like we talked about, looking for a study abroad experience, DU Passport. And that's found right here. You can click on DU Passport, and this is the search page. So you can do anything from searching for a specific program right here to looking for a particular region of the world, a particular country, that kind of thing. So let's start with just looking for a program. We'll do Spain. That tends to be a pretty popular location. Some additional parameters that you can put in here, some whether it's got a homestay or an internship, things like that. What's the language of instruction? The areas of study is a good place to look. That kind of thing all can be found on this website. So let's just search for Spain. Lots of program options. All of these, as you can see, are provider programs. So they've all got the acronym in the front. So higher level of support, especially in countries where English is not the first language. It's a great option. One of my friends went to the Universidad Pablo de Olavide. So let's have a look at this one. It pops up with some basic information about the program, a little bit of an overview. You can see the chance of acceptance here. So remember, like I said, if it's a limited or medium chance of acceptance, we really recommend you apply by that early deadline. If it's a high chance of acceptance, you can apply by the standard deadline. You can find information about the program advisor here, some of the dates and deadlines, things like that. You can also make an appointment with an advisor here if you would like to learn more. If you're really set on a program, it would be great to meet with with an advisor for that program. You can learn more about academics. You can see course catalogs here, program details, a little bit about the location, housing, meals. And then this tab is for your costs and scholarships. So this is what would be shown on your DU tuition. And then these are some additional expenses to be looking into. So those are really the two primary resources. Thank you all for joining me in this recording. I really appreciate it. And good luck with your study abroad experience. We're really looking forward to having you. We can't wait to meet you all throughout the year.